I'll show you how to get the total number of items in a TreeView widget, including sub-items. Join me as we continue to explore the TreeView widget in Tkinter.
Hi, my name is Jobin, and I'm an open source developer. My channel is called JobinPy, and it's all about Python and Linux. Welcome to JobinPy.
So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get the total count of the number of rows in a TreeView widget. So here's an example. I have a TreeView widget, and in my TreeView widget, I have the following items in it. I have orange, there's apple, and banana. And in apple, like under apple, there's also apple juice, and under banana, there's also a whole bunch of other items: banana milkshake, banana bread, and banana cake. So I have three parent items. The parent items are orange, apple, and banana. And the sub items are apple juice, banana milkshake, banana bread, and banana cake. So these are sub items. And these three, orange, apple, and banana, are parent items. And I want to get the count for the total number of rows, including sub-items. So how many items do we have in total? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 items in this TreeView widget. And I want to get the count of all of them through code. So let's try to do this. And we have a button here that says get count. And it's basically just a regular ttk button. And currently when you click on the ttk button, it says clicked, because this is the method that runs when the button is clicked. And all I have here is just print clicked. So let's try to get the count of the total number of rows and items in this TreeView widget. So the first thing that comes to mind is we can write total underscore count equal TreeView test. This is the name of my TreeView. It's TreeView underscore test dot get children. And this will return the items that this TreeView widget has. So I want to get the total number of children for this TreeView widget. And let's print that and see what we get. Okay. And again, we have all these sub items, and I'm going to click on get count, and the answer will show up in the console down here. 3, which is obviously not what we want. So the reason why it's coming up with 3 is because it's only counting the parent items. It's only counting orange, apple, and banana, but not the other sub items. So what can we do about this? Is there a different method that we can run? Unfortunately, there isn't. So we have to actually create our own method which counts the sub items. And to do this, we can do the following. I'm going to create another method called getCount. In this method, I'm going to take in an item IID. And this will be, by default, set to a blank string. And what this method will do is it's going to count and return the number of items and sub-items in a TreeView widget. Okay, so the item ID, or IID, is the unique item identifier as a string. So this is the identifier, meaning it's basically the row or the unique row identifier. And this will be a string. So basically when you insert an item into a TreeView widget, by default, they get assigned a unique IID. Usually the first item is I001 and then I002 and so forth. You can actually come up with your own IIDs, which I have in this example. So we'll see that as well. And this will return the total count as an integer. So here we can put that symbol to show that it's going to return an integer. Then I'm going to initialize a variable. I'm going to say count equals 0. And then for item in TreeView underscore test, our TreeView widget, dot get children. So far it's the same as what we saw before. But in get children, we're going to pass in an item IID. So I'm going to say item equal item IID. So we're passing in whatever that we're getting here into this method, get children. And if we pass an empty string, it's just going to list the parent items. Okay, next we're going to count the item that we're currently on. So we're counting the item that we're currently on in this for loop. So I'm going to say count plus equal 1. Okay, so whatever count has, we're incrementing 1 to it for every item that we're looping on. Then the next line is important. We're going to get all the sub items of the current item that we're on. So whichever item that we're looping, we're also going to get the sub items of that item. And how we're going to do that is we're going to write count plus equal get count. So we're calling this method again. So this method is essentially has code that's calling itself. And we're going to pass in the item that we're currently looping over. And finally, we're going to return the count. So what this is doing is it's actually looping each item in our TreeView widget. So it's going to loop, it's going to go over orange, and it's going to try and loop the sub items of orange, which obviously orange doesn't have any sub items. So it's going to detect that there are no sub items there, and it's going to go over to apple. Then it's going to count apple as 1, and then it's also going to loop over any sub items that it has, which in this case, apple has 1 sub item. So with apple, it's going to be 2, a count of 2, and then when it counts apple juice, it's going to be a count of 3. And then it's also going to try and get the sub item of apple juice, which in this case, there is no sub item of apple juice. It just ends with apple juice here. And then it carries on and goes to banana, and it does the whole thing there again. So it's actually counting deeper than with just get children by itself. So now we're getting the children of a specific item. So we're counting deeper, essentially. Okay, so at the top here, I'm going to delete the code that we had, and I'm going to write get count. And I'm not going to pass anything, because initially we want to get the count. We want to start with the parent items and then work our way down from the parent items. And then I'm going to print total count. Let's just see what we get now. Okay, so remember there are 7 items in total, and if I click on get count, we get 7. So now it's working the way that we're expecting. So what is it doing again? Well, one thing we could do is I'm going to put a break here, and then I'm going to run it in debug mode so that it stops for each count that it does. I'm going to click on get count, and then we'll watch PyCharm stop line by line, and we'll step through it. I'm going to click on get count now. Okay, so it stopped here. It hasn't actually run this method yet. So now we're going to go into get count. And it passed in an empty string, and PyCharm is telling us here as well that item IID is a blank string. And we're on this line currently. Let's go over to the next line. So the count is 0, that's fine. Now we're starting to get the children of the blank string, the item with a blank string, which in this case would be all the root items in our TreeView widget. Okay, so it's going to start with one of them. It's going to start with orange because orange is at the top. and we're going to count the item that we're on. So we're going to count orange. So this is the first item that we're counting actually. And if I hover my mouse over count, it gives us an int of 1. So yeah, so far we've counted orange. So we're currently on orange and it's counted 1. And now on this line, it's going to try and get the sub items of orange. If I hover my mouse over item, we can see that it's orange. So it's going to try to get the count within orange. But in this case, there are no sub items. But let's try and see how it does that anyway. So now we're going to go into get count again, but this time for the sub item, which doesn't exist. We don't have any sub items. So this is the sub item section of it. So for item in TreeView test.get children, it's going to try and get the children of orange, but there are none. So it breaks out of that for loop. It doesn't even actually start that loop actually. It just goes over it because it doesn't have any children. And then it gives us a count of 0. So that means that orange doesn't have any children. So it returns a count of 0. Then we're back into the very first time that it ran get count. We're on orange, but now it's going to change. Now we're on apple. And now it's going to say count and then plus equal 1. And if I hover my mouse over count, so now we're keeping a count of 2, which means we counted orange as 1 and now we've counted apple as 2. And this line is going to go within apple. So it's going to try and count the sub items in apple, which if you remember, there's 1 sub item in apple. Okay, so now we're going to go in get count for the sub item, which is what we're in now. And it's going to try to get the sub items here. So apple juice is one of the sub items. So the count is currently 0. It's going to add 1 to it. If I hover my mouse over it, count of 1. And now it's going to try and get the count of sub items of apple juice. So it's going to try and get a count by going deeper and deeper into the nested items for as many nested items that there are. And if it can't find any, it just moves on to the next item. So that's basically how that works. So the key here is that we're running get count on itself by counting deeper and deeper. Currently, we just have to come up with our own method to count the total number of items in a TreeView widget.
We saw how to get the total number of items in a TreeView widget, including sub-items. It might seem like a simple problem that has a simple solution, but it still requires a little bit of planning. There is currently no built-in method that can accomplish this. By the way, each item in a TreeView widget has a unique identifier as a string. For example, I001 as the first row, I002 as the second row, and so forth. The TreeView widget will automatically generate a unique identifier for each inserted row. However, you can provide your own unique identifier by passing in a custom IID string when you use the insert method. I hope this explanation was useful to you. Until the next tutorial, thanks for watching.